This is one of the deadest times of the calendar when it comes to sports news, and I actually enjoy this time of year because a lot of these interviews start to filter out with guys that are new to your team or that you want to learn about. And Laken Tomlinson is the latest guy who have appeared on Texans radio. Would have done this interview sometime during OTAs, but the guys put it out there. Really good clip. My favorite answer was when Mark Vandermeer had asked about what his favorite type of blocking is, whether it's, gap scheme or outside zone, all the different systems he's been in. Laken Tomlinson eventually arrived at this answer.
I really just want to kick the living hell out of somebody. And
we like that. We like that.
Yeah. Me and Vandermeer back to back in a bar with Laken Tomlinson. I like that. I don't care. I don't care exactly what this scheme ends up looking like as long as guys are kicking the hell out of people. I also credit him. You can tell that he's an older player because he realized he wasn't on a podcast and he can't just drop the S-bomb like he wanted to. So good job. That's the blend of maturity and aggressiveness that our younger players need to see. Just as a way of a reminder, I did a video on Laken Tomlinson when the Texans first signed him and highlighted the positives, the negatives. Here's just three of the positives very quickly in less than a minute from that video. This time versus Khalil Davis. Gonna see a really nice reach block. And Tomlinson's not the most athletic guy in the world, but I was impressed with the quicks here. Just boop. I had to watch that. He falls off there, but still. This is going to be a combo block between the guard and the center. They're going to want to drive block that defensive tackle up into the lap of the backer, and then one of them will scrape off on the backer. Back flat. See those legs churning like he's on the 7-man sled. This is going to be a pass protection versus Malik Collins. He battled with Malik Collins for much of the day, but he attacks him with a short set. Malik gets some separation there, but it was a good job by Tomlinson recovering. So just three quick snippets there. One with the outside zone, one with drive block up to a linebacker, the smash mouth football that everybody always wants to see. So it's harder and harder to come by these days. I do think the Texans are going to try to be more of a smash mouth team this year. And then in the pass protection, he let up a good amount of sacks last year. He's not at his prime when it comes to pass protection. But I think the reason for this signing, it makes a lot of sense when you're trying to get some level of cohesion and chemistry on the offensive line with a veteran player who has been very, very durable. If you bring up his stats, you go get 2015 through 2024. The only year that he missed a single game looks like it was in 2017. And I don't know if that was because of injury or they were getting ready to play other people. No idea there. The other notable thing, I think, is if you look at his career, that 1 year in the Pro Bowl in 2021 with San Francisco, I think it kind of speaks to the type of player Laken Tomlinson is, which is a guy that can fit into your scheme, and if everything else is right, you can really get the most out of him. He can be a really valuable part of a really good offensive line. He's not going to be the bell cow or the guy that put on the season tickets or anything, but that's what you're hoping for. Is you're hoping that you get some synergy just by having 5 selfless guys on the offensive line. He talked about the importance of chemistry. I did like this answer.
I believe, the offensive line could be like the strength of a team. Those guys are the grinders, man. Come out and grind. They want to be the backbone, the foundation of the team, the linemen for the team.
Yeah.
So when you can have that for a team, you can go very far, man. So and I've seen it in the past. I've been a part of it, and I'm excited to be able to exercise that here.
Yeah, there's a part of him that reminds me a little bit of Will Shields, and that he's the type of player he is doesn't match up with the way he talks in interviews. This happens with a lot of offensive linemen. They tend to, some of the guys, the all-time Hall of Famers and whatnot, very little trying to sell themselves as anything other than they're just smart dudes who go out and play physical football. You meet Will Shields and you never would have guessed. You're like, this guy's not tough enough to certainly be a 15-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer. But that's the way he played on the field. Laken Tomlinson on the importance of working with rookies. This is a big part of why they brought him in.
Sure, it's extremely important. I mean, when I was a rookie, when I got drafted by Detroit, I had guys, like Kelvin Johnson, a guy in my offensive line room, Manny Ramirez came in. Those guys took me under their wing, and week in and week out, I just kind of just stayed in their hip pocket and did everything they did. Yep. And obviously, I learned to what works for me and for my body type. I can't do the same thing as Megatron, obviously, but I get to learn about my body from those guys, what they did, because coming in the league, you don't know what you know.
Sure.
So having those guys was extremely important for, my foundation, my career. And being here, and especially working with the young guys and the rookies here, I feel like it's important for them too. And we have a really good group of rookies. I mean, they listen and they come on their work as well. They came in, see how we were working for OTAs. And man, I'm super excited about them too.
So if I were to make a comparison to the type of signing this is, in some ways, I think Jerry Hughes for the last couple of years, when you had Jerry Hughes, older guy, past his prime, but still really valuable, not just as a role player on the defensive line, but as a guy that can offer tutelage and be a good template for how you're supposed to work. How do I become a guy that's playing defensive line at the age of 35? I think they look at Laken Tomlinson as that same type of guy. And, who knows how many more years of viable football he has in him. But if, again, you look at the consistency that he's stayed healthy, that's where you hope the big difference is between Shaq Mason and Laken Tomlinson. There's a lot about the Laken Tomlinson signing that feels a lot like the Shaq Mason signing. Shaq Mason was a guy that got way more out of his natural physical attributes than you would have expected because he's a tough, hard-nosed guy that worked his butt off. But he's just been banged up enough the last couple of years that you couldn't really see the best version of Shaq Mason. With Laken Tomlinson, hopefully that durability makes a big difference. And then younger guys being able to see a guy that has only missed one NFL game ever. Like, what is his process? How does he go about it?
Staying healthy is extremely important. And, but I've been extremely fortunate, throughout my career of kind of maintaining my health, playing, I don't even, X amount of seasons, in a row, just trying to keep my body in and out of games. It comes to your routine. And when it comes to routine, I'm kind of like a master of my own routine.
Okay.
But I've been extremely lucky, extremely blessed in being able to go out there and just support my team week in and week out.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the group mentality that they're really trying to foster on the offensive line, it's all off-season propaganda or hype or whatever it might be. They're talking about the kinds of things that I don't think were necessarily a point of focus before. So when D'Amico points out that he loves seeing the way that at practice they're all moving together as a group, a lot of that boils over into that offensive line room or any position group, really. When it comes to things like for big guys getting in the cold tub, if you're a younger guy that's never gotten in the cold tub after practice and people are trying to get you into 38 to 42 degree water, it's a tough sell. But for the big guys especially, I know there's all kinds of data out there that shows that the cold water therapy doesn't do what people think it does. And that's garbage. The biggest advantage for a big guy is that it cools your body temperature down. You come in off the field, it's 98 degrees and 99% humidity out there. If you want to start recovering, you got to get in the cold tub. And it helps a lot if you got 3 other fat guys in there. So the young guys can see like, oh, I'm kind of a punk if I can't handle this cold, this cold temperature. Bill Belichick, in his book, The Art of Winning, is that what he calls it? He talked about a human being's penchant for mimicry, and I thought it was fitting for this.
I've noticed with some of my long-term colleagues that we'll end up speaking with the same tempo, timing, and inflection. It's a little weird sometimes, but it's also just human nature. We're hardwired for mimicry.
Hardwired for mimicry. It's 100% true. D'Amico taps into this. I think, one, from the leadership standpoint, but 2, also the way he coaches. I think that you learn with these pro-grow tapes and the teach tapes and everything, a lot of times it's way more instructive to look at people doing it correctly than it is to look at your own mistakes and see where you're falling short. Because it is the simplest form of teaching that somehow we overly complicate it sometimes. In a team environment like this, people they mimic each other. I'm listening to the audiobook, by the way, of The Art of Winning. It takes a good 3 or 4 chapters to get into it. I'm listening at 1.5x speed. So that was a little bit of a slowdown. Bill starts to let his personality flow forth about midway through the book. There's some good little tidbits in there. Also, one other thing, I didn't know this about Laken Tomlinson. It's probably something that everybody knows that I just didn't have a clue about. This is, are you ready for the heat, Laken Tomlinson?
It gets a little hot. Are you ready?
Yeah, man. What do you mean?
Yeah, he's from Jamaica. I thought he was just at first I was like, that sounds like a pretty good Jamaican accent, but what the hell do I know? He's originally from Jamaica, and that's the extent to which I dug into it. I haven't looked at his whole high school experience and everything. I would say I hope Laken can show Juice Scruggs how to minimize injuries, but that would mean Juice makes the yeah. Look, honestly, with any of the young guys, including Kenyon Green, the injuries have been a huge impediment to him. I think Jarrett Patterson, a lot of the promise he's shown at times has been set back by his injuries. So all of that, it's one of those things, man. It's the cumulative things you do. It's the beer that you don't drink. It's the food that you don't eat. Compared to the good food that you do eat, and it's going to bed. It's turning off the PlayStation and time to go to bed at night. So even the guys that aren't out living wild and crazy lifestyles just have to learn how to treat their bodies right. And you'd be amazed at you wouldn't be amazed. You know what young men are like. You can delude yourself into believing you're all kinds of superhuman that doesn't need as much sleep or proper nutrition or anything. And it's fun to watch the light bulb kind of turn on for some young guys. The more older guys you have in the room that are good at it and can set a good example for it, then by all means. One of you had said, so for cold water treatment, data says it helps with recovery but hurts muscle repair for muscle gain. So for professional athletes, it's great. Yeah, I only know for me personally, if I wanted to have any kind of an appetite to maintain weight during 2 days or what have you, just cooling my body temperature down as fast as possible gave me the ability to take a nap and to go eat properly and everything. So above and beyond, they should do a study on 320 pounders and exactly how it affects them. We already showed you. Jamaican starts with a J. We can't stop with the J's. Yeah, the JAs. Jamaican. Young men are immortal. It's true. It's true. That's why I don't do testosterone therapy. I did it for a little bit, and I got to a point where I realized, I feel like wisdom comes from as your testosterone levels start to drop, reflecting back on all the stupid things you did because of your testosterone. And I felt myself feeling way too much like a young and dumb 21-year-old that didn't need that level of testosterone in his life. So I'm just going to sit back and let my testosterone levels decline at a normal pace. And eventually one day, hopefully they plummet far enough that I actually have empathy and all that stuff. That's my battle during this. I'm going to try to fix myself in the next 3 weeks. All right. I'm going to try to get into Xavier Hutchinson here at some point. Thank you everybody for joining. Like, subscribe.